Hey there, friend. Have you ever caught yourself wondering why you don't light up at the thought of social gatherings the way you used to? Maybe you're in your 60s, 70s, or even 80s, and you've noticed you're pulling back from the crowds you once loved. If that stirs something deep inside, you're not alone. This isn't about shutting down or turning bitter. It's about something much richer, something born from the wisdom you've gathered over the years. Today, we're diving into 6 heartfelt reasons why you might be craving more space, even if you used to thrive in the buzz of connection. These aren't just theories. They're real, raw truths that so many older adults feel but rarely say out loud. Some might catch you off guard, others might hit close to home, but by the end, I promise you'll see yourself with a little more clarity and a lot more compassion. So, grab a cozy drink, settle in, and let's explore why stepping back might just be one of the most powerful choices you've ever made. Reason number 1. The weight of old wounds. Life doesn't just hand us stories, it leaves us with scars. Some are faint, like a friend's offhand comment that stung more than they meant it to, or a family spat that faded with an apology. Others, though, carve deep, betrayals that shook your trust, moments when you poured out your heart only to be met with silence or judgment as you move through your 60s, 70s, or 80s. Those old wounds don't just sit quietly, they whisper. They remind you of the times you opened up and got burned, and that memory makes you hesitate. You don't pull back from people because you're holding a grudge. You do it because you've learned to protect yourself. You've realized not everyone deserves a key to your inner world. Picture Sarah, an 80-year-old who once filled her home with the warmth of Sunday brunches. Her table was a gathering place, alive with laughter, clinking glasses, and stories that stretched late into the afternoon. Friends and neighbors flocked to her, drawn to her generous spirit, but over the years, the guest list shrank. One friend shared a secret Sarah had trusted her with, letting it slip carelessly at a party. Another stopped calling after Sarah's partner passed, as if her grief was too heavy to share. There wasn't one catastrophic moment that broke her, just a slow trickle of disappointments that piled up like stones. Now, Sarah finds herself choosing quiet evenings with a book or a walk in her garden over crowded gatherings. It's not that she dislikes people, it's that she's learned to treasure calm over chaos. This shift isn't about bitterness, it's about wisdom. As we age, we build a kind of quiet armor, not to keep everyone out, but to let in only those who've earned it. Psychologists call this relational fatigue, a weariness that creeps in when maintaining connections feels more like a chore than a joy. It's especially common among those who've lived through emotional storms, betrayals, losses, or moments when love wasn't returned. You've spent decades pouring out care, offering support, showing up even when it hurt, and somewhere along the way, you learn that not everyone reciprocates. That realization changes you. You start noticing not just what people say, but how they make you feel when they're gone. This isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's the courage to say, my heart is precious and I won't hand it to just anyone. You begin to guard your time, your energy, your trust, not because you've lost faith in people, but because you've found faith in yourself. You've seen how quickly loyalties can shift, how easily promises can break, and that knowledge makes you choosy. Sarah, for instance, still loves deeply, but she's selective now. She'd rather share a quiet coffee with one true friend than host a room full of faces she can't fully trust. That's not withdrawal. It's discernment, a hard-earned gift of a life well lived. If you're stepping back, it's not because you're broken, it's because you're whole enough to know what you deserve. Reason number 2. Craving quiet over noise. There was a time when you could sit through hours of chatter, small talk about the weather, gossip about neighbors, or conversations that danced around nothing just to keep the room humming. You'd nod, smile, maybe even add a quip to keep things light. But now, that feels like a distant memory. Somewhere along the line, Silence stopped being awkward and started being sacred. You've discovered a peace so deep, so restorative, that trading it for idle talk feels like giving away a treasure. In your 60s, 70s, or 80s, you're not avoiding people. You're chasing what fills your soul. Take George, a 75-year-old who used to light up every room as a real estate agent. He could strike up a conversation with anyone, his warm laugh pulling strangers into his orbit. Back then, he thrived on the buzz of crowded barbecues and family reunions. But these days, George is different. He'll politely decline invitations to big gatherings, opting instead for a quiet morning on his porch with a cup of coffee and the sound of birds. When a cousin asked why he's been distant, George just chuckled and said, "I'd rather listen to the wind than talk to fill the air." He's not lonely, he's deliberate. He craves conversations that spark something real, not ones that demand he perform or pretend. As we age, our emotional energy becomes a finite resource, something we guard like a flame in the wind. The pressure to impress, to be on, to prove ourselves, it all falls away. What's left is a hunger for meaning, for exchanges that leave you fuller than they found you. Psychologists say this shift often comes with age, as we prioritize quality over quantity in our relationships. You've spent years navigating noisy rooms, dodging shallow chatter, and now you know the difference between talking and connecting. If a conversation doesn't lift you, you'd rather sink into the quiet of your own thoughts, maybe with a good book or a sunset to keep you company. This isn't about shutting people out. It's about letting yourself in. It's about claiming the right to say no to what drains you, to walk away from noise without apology. George, for example, still loves his family, but he's learned that a single heartfelt talk with his daughter means more than a dozen loud gatherings. That choice reflects strength, not distance. You've earned the freedom to protect your peace, to choose depth over distraction. When you skip the crowded party or pass on the gossip-filled lunch, you're not retreating, you're honoring what matters. You're saying, "My time is precious and I want to spend it on what feels true." That's not just growth, it's a quiet revolution, one that comes with the clarity of a life richly lived. So if you're drawn to silence these days, embrace it. It's not emptiness, it's the sound of you listening to yourself. Reason number 3. Feeling like you don't fit anymore. There comes a moment when you look around and feel like the world has shifted beneath your feet. The slang is unfamiliar, the values seem skewed, the pace of conversations and expectations feels like a race you didn't sign up for. You share a story from your life, maybe about a time you overcame something big, and it's met with distracted nods or quick subject changes. It's not that people are trying to dismiss you, they just don't see you anymore. In your 60s, 70s, or 80s, that disconnect can feel like standing in a crowded room, shouting into a void. You're not pulling back because you don't care. You're doing it because feeling invisible is heavier than being alone. Consider Margaret, a 78-year-old retired nurse who used to love gathering with her grandkids. She'd tell them about her days delivering babies in a bustling hospital or organizing food drives for her community. Her stories were woven with pride and hard-earned wisdom, but over time she noticed a change. Her grandkids would smile politely, then glance at their phones. They'd interrupt to talk about a viral video or rush off to answer a text. It wasn't malice, just a gap that grew wider with every visit. Eventually, Margaret stopped sharing. She started declining invitations, not out of anger, but because the ache of being unheard was too much. Now she finds comfort in her own company, where her thoughts don't have to compete for attention. Psychologists call this emotional invalidation, when your feelings or experiences are subtly sidelined or dismissed. It's not a loud rejection, but a quiet erosion, built from small moments that pile up over time. For many older adults, this is one of the deepest reasons for stepping back. You carry a lifetime of lessons, joys, and sorrows, But when others don't pause to listen, you stop offering. You know the weight of your words, the depth of your heart, but sharing them in a room that doesn't hear feels like casting pearls into the wind. So you choose solitude, not because it's better, but because it's safer. This isn't about giving up, it's about self-respect. You've outgrown spaces where you have to shout to be seen. Margaret, for instance, still loves her family, but she's learned to seek out moments where she feels valued, like quiet chats with an old friend who asks questions and listens. When those connections are rare, it's natural to retreat, to guard your energy, to find peace in a space where you're fully known, your own heart. Your voice still matters, your story still holds power, even if the crowd doesn't hear it. Stepping back doesn't mean you've lost your place. It means you're creating one, a true, where you're seen, heard, and cherished, even if it's just by you. That's not loneliness, it's liberation. Reason 4, the fear of being too much. As the years deepen, a quiet fear can take root, not of aging or fading, but of becoming a burden. It's a worry that hums beneath the surface. I don't want to be a hassle. You hesitate to call a busy friend, to ask for a ride, to admit you're struggling. You say no to invitations, not because you don't want to go, but because you dread the thought of someone rearranging their life for you. If you're pulling back, it's not stubbornness or pride, it's care. It's a fierce desire to preserve your dignity, to be loved freely, not out of obligation. Take Walter, an 83-year-old widower who used to spend every Sunday with his son's family. His laughter filled their home, his stories kept the kids wide-eyed. But as his mobility waned, knees stiffening, steps slowing, he started declining their invites. When his son pressed him, Walter's voice softened. I don't want to be in the way. You've got kids, careers. I'd just slow things down. His family never saw him as a burden, but Walter's fear was louder than their reassurances. He'd spent a lifetime being the provider, the rock, and now relying on others felt like betraying that strength. This fear isn't just about physical needs, it's emotional too. You hold back worries, swallow questions, keep struggles to yourself, or to avoid adding weight to someone else's load. Psychologists say this often stems from a lifetime of independence. If you've always been the helper, the one who fixed problems, dried tears, carried others, asking for support feels foreign, even wrong. So you retreat, not from mistrust, but from a deep wish to protect the bonds you cherish. Walter, for example, still joins his family for holidays, but he's selective. He wants his presence to feel like a gift, not a chore. This choice shrinks his world, but it also preserves his sense of self. It's a paradox many older adults face. The more you treasure connection, the less you want to lean on it. You'd rather stay home, savoring memories or a quiet meal, than risk feeling like a responsibility. But here's the truth. Those who love you don't see your needs as weight. They see them as a chance to give back. Your value isn't tied to how self-reliant you are. It's woven into who you are. Still, that fear lingers, and it's okay to honor it. Stepping back isn't giving up. It's a way of holding on to the pride you've carried through decades. If this feels familiar, try a small step. Share a thought. Accept an invite. Let someone in just a little. You might find they're not burdened. They're blessed. And in those moments, you'll see that your presence, even with its needs, is still a light in their world. Reason 5. The slow drift of old bonds. Not all connections end in a blaze of conflict or a tearful goodbye. Some just fade like a song you loved but can't quite hum anymore. Life pulls people in different directions, new jobs, new cities, new priorities, and before you know it, the friends who filled your days are just names in your contacts. If you're stepping back from others, it's not always because of anger or loss. Sometimes it's the quiet realization that the ties that once held you close no longer fit who you are. Think of Clara, a 72-year-old who used to meet her childhood friend Ellen for coffee every Friday. They'd laugh over old memories, swap stories about their kids, plan their next adventure. But over time, those meetups grew sporadic. Monthly, then yearly, then nothing. There was no fight, no betrayal. Ellen got busy with grandkids. Clara dove into painting classes. Their paths diverged, and the silence crept in. Clara says, "We still care about each other, but our lives don't overlap anymore. It's like we've said all we needed to say. This drift is more common than we talk about. Friendships often form around shared seasons, raising families, working side by side, living next door. When those seasons shift, the connection can falter. It's not always painful, sometimes it's just life. But it leaves a subtle ache, a nostalgia for the lunches, the long talks, the inside jokes that used to light up your days. You wonder, was it them? Was it me? Or was it just time? Clara, for instance, doesn't mourn the loss. She's grateful for what was. But she's also pickier now. At 72, she knows her time is precious, and she wants to spend it with people who match her energy, who share her passions. This isn't about outgrowing others, it's about growing into yourself. As you age, you get clearer about what fills you up and what leaves you empty. Conversations that once flowed might now feel forced, and instead of pushing through, you choose space, not from resentment, but from respect for your own needs. Letting go like this takes courage. It's tempting to cling to old bonds, to force connections that no longer spark joy, but there's freedom in releasing what's faded. It opens room for new friendships, deeper ties, or even the quiet beauty of your own company. If you're feeling this drift, don't judge yourself. You're not losing people. You're finding clarity. You're honoring the person you've become, and that's a gift. So when you let old ties slip, do it with grace. Cherish the memories, but don't be afraid to walk forward. The right connections, whether with others or yourself, will find you, and they'll feel like home. Reason 6. The beauty of your own company. There's a moment in life when you stop chasing the crowd and start cherishing something far more precious: your own company. It's not about hurt or emptiness, it's about joy. You realize that being alone doesn't mean being lonely, it means being free. Free to move at your own pace, to follow your thoughts, to savor the quiet without justifying it to anyone. If you're stepping back from people, it might be because you found a peace so deep, so sacred, that it's worth protecting above all else. Picture Thomas, an 81-year-old who used to be the heartbeat of every gathering. His home was the go-to spot for barbecues, game nights, and impromptu parties. His laugh could wake the neighbors. But in recent years, Thomas has traded crowded rooms for quiet afternoons on his porch, watching the sunset paint the sky. When a friend asked if he's lonely, he chuckled. "Lonely? I've got enough stories in my head to keep me company for a lifetime." Thomas hasn't shut out the world. He's discovered a richer one within himself. This shift often baffles others. Family might worry, friends might assume you're withdrawing from sadness, but in truth, you're tuning into something profound. After decades of showing up, for work, for family, for everyone else, you finally have space to hear your own voice. And it's beautiful. Silence isn't empty, it's alive with memories, reflections, dreams. You no longer feel the urge to fill every moment with noise or prove your worth through busyness. Instead, you savor the freedom to just be. Thomas, for example, finds joy in small rituals, brewing his morning coffee, tending his garden, flipping through old photo albums. These moments aren't lonely, they're full. Psychologists say this. Embrace of solitude often comes with age, especially for those who've spent years stretched thin by obligations. You've given so much, and now you're claiming time for yourself. It's not detachment, it's insight. It's the wisdom to know that some of your happiest days don't need anyone else's presence. This choice is a quiet revolution. In A world that celebrates constant connection, choosing solitude is an act of courage. It's saying, I am enough. It's finding a rhythm that's softer, richer, truer. You move through your days with intention, whether it's watching birds, or writing in a journal, or simply sitting with your thoughts. And in that space, you meet yourself, not the roles you've played, but the person you've always been. So if you're savoring your own company, don't doubt it, celebrate it. You've earned this peace, this refuge, this joy. It's not about turning away from the world. It's about falling in love with your place in it. And that, my friend, is one of the greatest gifts of growing older. Wrapping it up. You're not fading, you're flourishing. So, which of these reasons felt like it was written just for you? Maybe it was the sting of old betrayals, the longing for quiet, or the joy of your own company. Whatever it was, I hope you're starting to see something beautiful. Stepping back isn't about losing yourself, it's about finding yourself. You're not closing off, you're choosing wisely. You've walked through decades of love, loss, and lessons, and those years have given you permission to protect your peace, to seek meaning, to live on your terms. There's strength in saying no to what drains you. There's courage in embracing what lifts you, and there's freedom in knowing your worth doesn't depend on how many people are around you. If you're craving space, you're not alone. Countless others are walking this same path with quiet grace and hard-earned wisdom. Thank you for sharing this time with me. In the comments, tell me, which reason hit you the hardest and how? Are you carrying it forward? Your story matters, and I can't wait to hear it. If this video touched you, give it a like, share it with someone who gets it, and subscribe to keep these conversations going. Here's to honoring your journey, your peace, and the incredible person you've become. See you in the next one.